Hi, and thanks for joining. The 2022 Denver Energy Code Commercial Checklist Overview was developed in conjunction with the Offices of Community Planning and Development and Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency at Denver. The purpose is to provide a clear understanding of how designers should utilize the checklist when submitting for permit. This video can be viewed in 8 minutes or less. Let's begin with an overview. The 2022 Denver Energy Code offers both prescriptive and performance compliance options, with respective checklists available to cover all compliance pathways. While this checklist identifies the minimum submittal requirements, it is not comprehensive and more information may be requested upon review. Be sure to start using Denver's checklists early in the design process to plan out your compliance approach. On denvergov.org/building code, you'll find Denver's webpage for building code resources, which you can find the checklists available for download. The checklist for both compliance pathways is required for new buildings, additions, and alterations, which is documented at the top of the General Compliance tab under Project Scope. When going through and including your responses, be sure to check the column on the right for definitions and submittal requirements and clarifications. A new element of the checklist is including the Energize Denver target EUI. Recognizing that new buildings turn into existing buildings, Denver wants to ensure that Energize Denver's targets are considered in the design phase for buildings 25,000 square feet or larger. Both of the checklists have tabs that are grouped by discipline. For example, there's general compliance, building envelope, HVAC and kitchen, surface hot water, and power and lighting. This image is specific to the building envelope tab. The prescriptive and performance checklists capture mandatory requirements across all pathways in the general compliance tab, and also in the all compliance paths sections of the building components tabs. Each of the measures included on the checklist have an area for the designer to note the drawing or specification number in addition to the submitter notes. By filling out exactly where the plans examiner can find the item, it reduces the number of comments received in the plan review process. While going through each of the requirements, be sure to note if a measure is not applicable. There are brief explanations of each measure's requirements and triggers, and the code sections are included to provide additional details or to reference if any exceptions apply. The checklists are intended to be used as a helpful resource for design teams to ensure that all mandatory requirements are implemented in the design. Let's now dive into each checklist. The prescriptive checklist aligns with the code requirements in sections C402 through C406 and C408. A new component of the checklist is the C406.1 credits tab, where additional efficiency credits are calculated. It is required that each building component meets a minimum efficiency in CompCheck, and the generated compliance and inspection checklists from CompCheck shall be submitted along with the Denver prescriptive checklist. On the screen is a snapshot of the preliminary table in the C406 credits tab, which assists design teams in understanding what is required for your building's fuel source or type. For example, an all-electric property will require fewer credits than mixed fuel properties, and school buildings require fewer efficiency credits than a multifamily building. If your project has multiple building types, the calculator will compute the area-weighted Denver credit requirements for you, making it easier to plan your credit requirements while you're still early in the design process. Although the entire calculator is not captured here, it's important to call out that for each additional efficiency credit, you can note which credits you're pursuing with a simple Y or an N, with each appropriate building type to calculate your total or to use in planning. Denver has also clearly noted what documentation they expect to be provided with, in addition to a quick reference to the thresholds for each measure and a section number to review the entire code requirement. Next up, let's review the performance checklist. The checklist for the performance path complements the modeling report provided for plan review. It follows a similar format to the prescriptive checklist, except there's no tab for table C406.1, and the performance path has slightly different mandatory requirements, including requirements from ASHRAE 98.1, 2019. When reviewing the checklist, make sure to verify that you're providing all submittal requirements as called out for each measure in the submittal requirements and clarifications column. Last but not least, let's cover the steps for including the checklist in the plan set. First, you'll want to print the checklist to PDF. There's a total of 6 tabs for the prescriptive pathway and 5 tabs for the performance pathway, covering each of the disciplines. Once you have the PDF, those PDFs will be included with the respective discipline drawings. By including the checklist in the plan set, it provides value for the CPD inspectors to have access to the checklist in the field. When this PDF is printed and included on the drawings, it can either be placed in color or in grayscale. Either is acceptable. Each discipline's designer of record stamps their respective sheet with the checklist included. Those designers of record also stamp the general compliance with their respective checklist on the plan set. For any other disciplines, the stamp on the set is acceptable and sufficient. The following checklist components should be included in the construction documents. This includes the general compliance tab, building envelope, HVAC and kitchen, surface water heating, and power and lighting. And then specifically for the prescriptive path, you'll also be including the C406.1 credits planning tool. Thank you for tuning in. If you have follow-up questions, please visit denvergov.org/buildingcode.